Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape, vinyl tape,
carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. And today, as always, man, I got my dude, Boynton Weeks on the phone. How are you, sir?
Hey, Kevin Wortham. I am well, my good brother. And thank you, man, for having me. I'm glad to be here and excited to be with you.
Absolutely. We're just going to get started because I want folks to know that when I do these podcasts, right, I do them with entrepreneurs, but it's also with entrepreneurs I have history with. So I want you to take the time out to kind of share with the audience as to how we made the connection, because I want them to know everything about you. So not only are you an entrepreneur, but you are a good community brother. I want them to know that as well. So Butch, take it away, man.
Yeah, man. So when I harken back, when I think about what brought you and I together, I don't know, probably 10 years or so ago, was in my capacity as director of our Sigma Beta Club.
Yes.
In Trenton, New Jersey, where on behalf of my beloved fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity,
yes,
we run a youth mentoring and training program for young men between the ages of 8 and 18.
Yes.
And so right off the bat, that melded well with the work that you were doing with the Minding Our Business program.
Yes,
so where you too were, significantly involved with mentoring and uplifting our young men in our community. So if I'm accurate, brother, that was where we kind of, this thing kind of came together.
Absolutely. But I think more importantly, though, you have a good spirit. There was some synergy of cigars. So that just made the relationship even better. You're a good dude, man. You're a good dude. And
listen, hey, listen, I mean, for the record,
yes, sir.
Yeah, a good cigar and a good scotch and in good company with Mr. Wortham.
Yes, sir.
That's success, yes.
But on the serious side, though, you had talked about how you had a series of salons. So tell us first about the salons. What got you into owning salons, several salons?
So really what did it, and I'm going back over 20 years, but,
yes,
like many of my clients today, Kevin, I was that corporate executive,
yes,
right, who, was growing disgruntled with the corporate politics and the culture and the amount of time I was spending away from my kids.
Yes.
So I started attending various webinars and seminars investigating how could I go into business for myself.
Yes.
And what emerged was, this concept called franchising.
Yes.
And so I didn't know what type of franchise I wanted to buy and invest in, but I knew I needed something that was a proven system, a proven model.
Yes.
I didn't have to figure out how to do it.
Yes.
I wanted to leave corporate America because I wanted more time with my children.
Yes.
Right. what was going to be the vehicle that did that for me. And it just so happens that it was hair salons, but it could have been anything.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So one of the things I tell people, and I've got about 20 years of franchising experience now. One of the things I tell people is don't get locked in on a particular concept, right? Get locked in on doing the due diligence, because if you think about the franchise landscape, Kevin, there's over 3,700 franchises out there.
Wow. In
some 80 to 90 different industries. Right.
Wow.
So most of the people come to me and say, well, Boynton, where do I get started? How do I get started? And so that was the process that I walked myself through over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I ended up at hair salons.
Okay.
And so what I bought was a master franchise.
Yes.
And that's a little more complicated. It's a 3-tier system. I'm not going to get into all the details of that.
Okay.
But it allowed me to gain exposure both on the franchisor and the franchisee side.
Gotcha.
So for me, it happened to be hair salons. For someone else, it could be fitness. It could be damage restoration. It could be automotive, right?
Yes.
There's a whole plethora of opportunities out there.
So now are you still in the hair salon business?
No. So I did that for the first 13 years of my franchise experience and sold that back to the corporate entity after opening sub-licensing, if you will, about 23 total units. Wow. So I sold that back to the home office in 2013, and then I started my franchise consulting company, which is BRW Franchise Consulting in partnership with FranNet, so that I could take my expertise and knowledge from those 13 years and help other people like myself start to understand this franchising space, which is tremendously underserved, particularly in the African American brown.
Yeah. So let's really unpack that whole part, right? So here you are a successful entrepreneur, and so we're going to hit it from the entrepreneurial side. You've got a standalone business. How do you franchise that? Can you franchise this standalone business? How would you do that?
Yeah, so I do get that question often.
Yes.
From people, and there are companies out there that are aggregators, right? They will help you build your franchise model, right? But it can be quite timely. It can be quite costly to turn an independent business into a franchise, although people do it every day. It can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $400,000, depending on the complexity and the nature of what exactly you want to get done. I don't do that specifically, but I work with companies that I'll bring clients to that would help them figure out what's your pathway to franchising your business. So generally, high level, Kevin, I tell people, if you're thinking about franchising your business, make sure that you're building it so that you understand all of the operational issues, so that if someone was going to buy your business, how easy would it be to replicate it, right? Yes. So start to think about an operations manual. How standardized is your day-to-day operations of your business? Yes. And that's going to make your pathway to franchising much more seamless.
Okay. So
it's a very complex process.
So let's go the other way around. Someone comes to you and they say, Butch, I've been looking at this industry. How do I get started? What's their next step? Do you say what in particular, which industry are you looking at? Have you done your research? How do you guide them, like the very first baby steps?
Right. So and that's an excellent question, Kev, because 95% of the people I talk to want to own a business. Yes. Right. Everybody, I want to go to work for myself. I'm tired of my boss. I hate my boss. Right. There's a million different reasons. Right. And we've all been there. Right.
Yes.
So the first thing I say is, okay, let's just hop on the phone. Let's spend a half hour, 45 minutes, and just start to talk about your goals and your expectations. Right. How much time do you want to invest? How much money do you want to invest? Right. How soon do you need to see a return on an investment?
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want blue collar employees? Do you want white collar employees? Do you want a home based business, or you want something anchored by, a Wegmans? Right. Yes. Do you want that proven business model that's been around for 45 or 50 years? Or are you an early adopter and you want that new sexy toy on the block, right? Gotcha. So there's a whole process that we walk people through, because remember, Kevin, I said there's 3,700 franchises out there.
Yeah.
So my company, FranNet, we only work with about 220 highly vetted concepts. Okay. So we've taken a lot of the guesswork out of it in terms of we understand what their success metrics are. We understand what their success rate is.
Yes.
Right. Are they on the SBA, the Small Business Administration registry, which means, Kevin, that there are banks out there that will fund this business for you. That is very, very critical. Right. You can buy a business and not get funded. Yeah. Right. Because the failure rate is above a certain number. So, gotcha. So we've taken a lot of the guesswork out of that process. Right. So, and we work with companies in a myriad of industries.
Okay.
From fitness to food to hair care to damage restoration. We have a well-rounded group of franchise companies that we work with that we would introduce our clients to, but only after really understanding what the client's goals are. So as an example, Kevin, if you said to me, well, Boynton, I'm thinking about opening a franchise. After that initial call, then I would have you complete an online assessment. It takes you about 30 minutes to complete online.
Yes.
And what it's doing is it's very similar to a Myers-Briggs or a DISC assessment, if you've ever taken any of those types of
Myers-Briggs, I have, yes.
Yeah. So sort of like personality assessment.
Yes.
This is very similar, but it helps us to pinpoint certain franchise industries that are aligned with your transferable skills and your goals. And then we kind of have some additional conversations around that. And then I would be able to point you in a direction that might be a good fit for you. And here's the best part about all this, Kevin. I do this because I'm passionate about it.
Absolutely.
So and so the work that I do with my clients is free. It doesn't cost them a nickel. But what it does cost them is some time, some energy, and some sweat equity, right?
Yes.
Because you're going to do some research. You're going to conduct due diligence in the process. So, any of your readers, your clients, my clients, all of this work is at no cost.
Wow. So now, as a result of the pandemic, have you seen a lot of folks pivot, switch gears, and just say, I want to do something different? Have you seen those numbers increase? Have you seen them contact you and say, I want to do something different?
Yeah. So is your question, Kevin, is as a result of the pandemic, are there more people interested in starting businesses?
Absolutely.
As opposed to before the pandemic?
That would be my question, yes.
Yeah. So interesting you say that, but I was reading an industry article the other day, and it looked at, the past 5 years, right?
Yes.
New business starts, right?
Yes.
And in 2016, there were 3 million new business startup applications, registered with the state. Yes. Across the country, yes. Right? Pandemic hit in 2019 into 2020. At that point, it was about 3.5 million.
Yes.
In 2021, that number's up over 5 million.
I can see that.
So there is more of that. Hey, Kevin, I want to take control of my life.
Yes.
This pandemic has really taught me that the day is not promised. And I've been thinking about buying a business. Well, now I'm jumping in and I'm really going to explore it.
Now, are you seeing more women of color approaching you? Are you seeing more women in general thinking about this whole franchise opportunity? What are you seeing in that landscape?
Yeah, so that's another interesting pivot, right? What we're seeing right now, about 25% of our placements, and this is throughout the country.
Yes.
About 25% of our placements currently are female. And so female-owned businesses. So
yes.
We're definitely seeing a leap there. We're seeing a leap with millennials,
yes,
who are a lot less committed to corporate America than we were when we were there years ago.
Yeah.
And you know what? We are, seeing a greater penetration of minorities, people of color, looking at franchising and saying, hey, you know what? I don't need $2 million to buy a McDonald's or a Burger King. So the education is getting out there that, there are a lot of good franchise business opportunities that you could start significantly lower than what most people's expectations are. You know what happens, Kevin? Most people think I need $2 or $3 million because when they think franchising, they think McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. And the reality is that 25% of the franchises out there, you know, cost under $150,000 total investment.
Wow.
So, and if you think about that, the way franchise funding works,
yes,
and this will be somewhat informative for your clients. So let's say somebody's buying a franchise and it costs $200,000, just to use a round number.
Yes.
Right? As long as the person has at least a 680 credit score.
Yes.
And 20 to 30% of that total number liquid.
Yes.
The banks and the lenders that I work with will fund that entire project, the remaining 70, 75% of it.
Wow.
So, yeah. So get the credit score up. If you're thinking about buying a business, you're buying a franchise, get your credit score over 680 and try to meet that equity injection number of 20 to 30% of the total investment. And the lenders, again, because this is the SBA-backed funding, right? Yeah. They've got certain criteria in order to underwrite you successfully.
Now, my thought is, let's say that well, I'll come back to that. When people are coming to you, particularly women of color, what industry are they particularly focusing in at? Is it cooking? Is it hair care? Is it travel? What industry are they more interested in?
You know, I can't say that there's a particular segment.
Okay.
Because again, a lot of this is really about, you know, what are your motivations? What are your experiences? And then overlay that with what are your goals and what are your transferable skills?
Yes. Okay.
Right. So let's say, you know, you came to me, Kevin, and not that this would apply to you, right? Because you know, you could sell ice to an Eskimo, right?
Thank you, brother.
But if I had a young lady come to me and say, hey, Boynton, you know, my neighbor owns, you know, a staffing franchise. Yes. Right. And she's super successful. She just opened her second location and she's making a ton of money. I go, yeah, that's great. But, you know, Kevin, what I know about you, you're not really a hunter. You're more of a gatherer. You're not that person that can knock on 10 doors, get 9 no's, and get up tomorrow with the same energy. Yeah, right? Yeah. So that's the primary transferable skill that a staffing franchisor is looking for. Gotcha. So it really depends on that young lady or that young man's transferable skills. What is it that they've done successfully in life, in corporate America, right? Were they salespeople? Were they customer service driven? You know, what skill set are they bringing to the table? And then we work backwards into the industry. So I can't say to you, Kevin, that there's a particular industry that women are more attracted to than others.
Gotcha. So now, when you do these workshops, like an all call at the workshop, are you going to universities? Are you going to corporate campuses? How do you recruit your typical person that would be interested in your services?
Yep. So most of it is it's pivoted right from doing these webinars or seminars really at the universities to now still doing it in conjunction with the universities throughout New Jersey and New York, but over a Zoom platform.
Got you.
So not quite going back in the classroom at the universities at this point in time. I envision that'll start to happen pretty soon. Yes. But I think what's happened is people have gotten accustomed to, you know, reaching a broader segment of the population by not limiting, you know, people having to be within these 4 walls. Yes. So I think some of that will open up, but right now it's primarily webinars with universities. And I do usually 2 a month. Okay. And, you know, I've got the contracts with 12 universities in New Jersey and a handful or so with universities in New York.
Wow. So I want
that's really where it is.
I want to go back to the skill set that's needed, right? Do you require them to have a certain amount of, not so much skill set, but I guess collegiate orientation? Do they have to have a degree in order to start a franchise?
So unequivocally, the answer to that is no. Okay. So not the franchise, most franchisors don't require it. Okay. What they again, if we were to put this in some sort of pecking order, it would be, can you finance it?
Yes.
Right. And do you have the transferable skills that they're looking for to run that business?
Got you.
And that's important, right? And so I'll give you an example. Hey, let's say you came to me, Kevin, you said, well, I'm an auto mechanic by trade.
Yes.
Right. And I really want to purchase this, this Meineke franchise.
Yes.
That's what I know. Right. Well, Meineke really doesn't want automotive mechanics.
Okay.
Right. They want someone that can shake hands, kiss babies, talk about the customer service experience, that knows how to hire and manage and motivate a staff of technicians. They don't want you doing the work.
Got you. Understood.
They want you working on the business and not in it. If that makes sense.
Got you. Now, okay. So I come to you and I say, okay, Boynton, I'm in New Jersey, but I want to franchise out Midwest. Can your company help me do that after you've taken me through the process, the steps?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yep. We have 100 offices around the United States.
Okay.
Canada, Germany.
Because
we have representation across the country.
Because I could see that happening. Because in Jersey sometimes, man, the winter weather is miserable. So I would come to you and say, but you know what? I need a business, but I certainly don't want it in New Jersey. Let's go to Arizona where it's warmer, like 10 months, 11 months out of the year. And through your connections, you can make something like that happen.
Yeah, because, most of the franchisors that we work with, they're global companies in many cases, right? So they're all across the United States as well as overseas.
Okay.
Right. So it just depends on where the client is and if there's still availability in that market.
Gotcha.
And that's a determining factor as well. But yeah, we would walk them through all of that.
We are at the table. We're building this franchise relationship. At what point does the relationship cease to end? Is that when I sign my final bank loan note? When does the relationship between you and the client end?
That's a good question. So for me, because this is personal.
Yes.
Right. I'm not just, so let me say this, right? So 7 out of 10 people that come to me don't buy a business today.
Okay.
Right. By the time we get through the process, 70% of people won't buy a business.
Yes.
And part of that is because, I'm very transparent in the process.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you feedback like, hey, man, this is borderline for you right now. You've got the transferable skills, but you're not quite there yet with the money. Mm-hmm. Right. So let's take another year, work on your savings, because, when you're starting a business, you don't take money out of it week one, right? So you've got to be able to live for a period of time for that business to ramp up, right? So to answer your question, so for me, it's not about you buying a business today.
Okay.
It's about you making an educated decision as to whether or not today is the right time. Gotcha. And if it is the right time and you buy a business today, well, for me, I stay in contact with all my clients.
Okay.
Right. And I'm always checking in. Hey, how's that franchise working out?
Yes.
Right. And that's important to me because it's very personal. Yes. I have a saying that, my success, your success is my satisfaction.
Absolutely.
Right. On Saturday, I have an African-American brother that I met, interestingly enough, at I did a seminar at the Montclair Art Museum in 2017.
Wow.
Long before the pandemic, when we were still
5 years ago.
presentations in person, right? And on Saturday, I attended his grand opening.
Wow.
Right, here it is 5 years later.
Yes.
Now, we stayed in touch throughout this entire time, and a lot of the feedback was, around, hey, let's get some other things in order. Now's not the right time.
Yes.
And then so I attended his grand opening on Saturday in Colonia, New Jersey. And it was the grand opening of a franchise called Comfort Care, COMFOR Care.
Yes.
And it's got about 130, 140 franchises around the country.
Okay.
Right. And what they do is they provide non-medical in-home care for, the elderly, the sick, people that need help that they want to remain in their home.
Yes.
Right. Yes. But they need additional services to remain independent. Right. They're not quite ready for a nursing home. They're not quite ready for an assisted living center.
Yes.
So they need additional support around the house.
Wow.
And that was the perfect fit for him. He's a CPA by trade.
Yes.
So he doesn't come from the healthcare space.
Yes.
But he has a passion for helping people, and his wife is a nurse.
Wow. Now speaking of wife, do you get a lot of husband and wives team coming to you and say, we want a franchise, we want to explore the possibility of having a franchise, and how do you guide them through that process? Yeah,
so not a requirement, but I'd say, Kevin, probably 75% of my clients are husband-wife teams.
Okay.
So both will be involved in the due diligence process.
Yes.
But it's usually one's going to take the lead, and the other one's, usually keeping their job, right?
Okay. Keeping
the income flowing into the household.
Okay.
So I really work the process around who's going to be the face of the business.
Yes.
That's where I spend the majority of my time.
Okay.
They both need to be involved because it's a household decision.
Yes.
Right. But it's really driven around the skill set, the lifestyle, how much time and energy is the face of the business going to invest into that business on a day-to-day basis.
Got you.
Right. So that's where the energy is spent.
So we've got the franchise together because, I do the entrepreneurial program, and I'm always teaching students the importance of the business plan. At what point are you asking your client to put together or submit to you a business plan? Is the business plan even important in that process?
Yeah, so it is, and it's usually going to be a requirement of the lender.
Okay.
Right. Usually when you're going through the underwriting process,
okay,
the bank is going to want at some point a business plan,
yes,
some sort of projections 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
And but the nice part about a franchise is, right, they already have 100, 150, 200, 500 of these, whatever the number is, 1,000, right?
Yes.
If it's a minor key, they already have templates in place. So
Gotcha.
You're not creating the business plan from scratch.
Yes.
Right. And again, another advantage of just going the franchise route, mm-hmm. right? It's just what we call plug and play.
Got you. I very quickly, I just felt a collaboration coming on, and we can talk about that. So in my mind, I would be thinking about you and I creating a workshop, Zoom workshop, where we would talk about the opportunities that are existing in the franchise space. And then I would undergird that with coming through a 9-week, 12-week program where they would identify a particular franchise, and we could support them by showing them how to do the business plan. I mean, just think about that. That would, and I like working with you anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, that's a great idea.
It's like,
again, the more resources that we could bring to bear for folks, and they don't have to figure this out on their own, the better off we all are. You and I are into the people helping business, right? That's what we do.
Yeah. That's like the Butch and Kevin dog and pony show, right?
Absolutely. and featuring a proven business model, right?
There you go.
And that's the end game, right?
Yeah.
We know that independent businesses work.
Yes.
But they fail a larger percentage of time, right? Because people have to build in the demographics and the psychographics and, what's going to be my cost of goods sold? What should my payroll percentage be, right? You're figuring all of that out. Whereas in a franchise, all of the KPIs, right, the key performance indicators, they're already there, right? Somebody else already did that.
Now, Butch, be mindful. What does, if there's such a thing, what does the prototypical franchisor look like? Is she or he married, 35 to 45? What does he or she look like typically before they move into that kind of space?
Well, typically it was that mid-50s Caucasian male, downsized from, a Goldman Sachs or wherever, right?
Yes.
But again, what we're seeing now is a shift in demographics, and so we're seeing more of that that millennial who's, again, not tied to corporate America at all.
Yes.
Right? They go 3, 4, 5 years. They're looking to move somewhere else. But they're not looking to spend a lifetime working for someone else.
Gotcha.
So we're seeing that bubble up. We're seeing more and more African Americans, more and more people of color, and certainly more women.
Okay.
So I that picture's really changing, and I'm excited about that.
I am too. Now, which region is the fastest growing as far as franchise opportunities?
Wow. I don't know that there's, and I hate being a little nebulous with this, but I don't know that I can look at this and go, the Northeast is better than the West Coast.
Okay.
Right. I think it depends on the franchise brand.
Okay.
I don't know that there's, I don't think there's anywhere where we could say, franchising isn't successful here, but it is over here.
Got you.
I don't know if I have that data.
Okay.
And I don't know if I've seen it.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I'm just compounding, some of the sources that I've been conferring with. There was a 60-minute piece that went on, I guess about 2-3 weeks ago. And it was talking about, due to the pandemic, a lot of folks were quitting their jobs, and they were looking to do franchise, and they were looking to do consulting work. And the biggest growth seemed to be in Greenville, North Carolina. That seemed to be one of the areas that was the fastest growth rate, where people were moving from the bigger cities, trying to have a more relaxed, laid-back way of life. And the franchise opportunities, consulting opportunities were growing far greater there than in the larger cities. So I don't know, but yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, and I don't know if that's driven by franchising success there as much as it's driven by, just the normal migration, right?
Yeah.
People going from the north to the south, warmer weather, that kind of thing. But in terms of success rates, of franchises in Greenville, in the Carolinas versus, in Mercer County, New Jersey. I don't know if there's any real difference there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I just threw it out because when I saw it, I thought it was interesting, and I thought that it had some synergy that was kind of just moving around with me that kind of made sense, right? But my other thought is, do you ever have franchisors that have been with you decide that they want to, as you did, sell the franchise back to the company, or they want to move in a different direction? Have you ever had that happen?
No, I think what happens more is, so if you think about a franchise license agreement, right? You buy a, I don't know, let's call it Club Pilates, right? You buy a Club Pilates franchise tomorrow. It's one of the very successful brands out there in the boutique fitness space.
Yes.
A franchise agreement is typically for anywhere from 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
Right. That's a typical franchise licensing agreement between the two parties, the franchisee and the franchisor.
Yes.
So what that means is, during the lifetime of that agreement, you as the franchisee, you can sell that business at any time. Okay. So if you own 1, 2, or 3, and the franchisor comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to make an offer," or you get a buyer,
yes,
some investor money coming in and they want to buy it,
yes,
you can sell that thing any day.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And this is what I often tell people, right? Like, you buy a business, you start a business because eventually you want to have an exit strategy, right? You want to sell it. Yeah. Right. So if you get the right offer, a lot of my clients, they'll sell today. I just have a client that sold, and this is why I thought about Club Pilates. He's in Orlando, one of my more successful clients. And he just sold his 2 Club Pilates after 5 years. Wow. And he bought, and he just recently bought 2 other franchises. Okay. Right. So he took the money from this successful venture and bought 2 more franchises. Now, typically, that's kind of what we're seeing, right? Yeah. People kind of get in and out. Yeah. Now, what typical are your franchise fees? So fees are broken down in the franchise space in a couple of different ways. Yes. Every franchise is going to charge you it's called an initial franchise fee. Yes. And that's going to be anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000, depending on the franchise. Okay. And then again, for the life of that agreement, remember 7 to 10 years, right? Yes. you're paying a royalty percentage weekly to that franchisor.
Weekly?
And so weekly.
Yes.
For the life of that franchise agreement. Because
Yes.
remember, there's an old adage, Kevin, you don't get anything for free in this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the franchisor, because you're plugging and playing that model, right? They figured out how to do this successfully. So they're going to transfer all of that information, that intellectual capital, over to you, the franchisee, to make you successful.
Yes.
But in return, you pay what's called a royalty.
Got you.
And so for some people, that could be, a deal breaker.
Okay.
And then I say, well, franchise is not for you. It's not for everybody.
Got you.
But every good franchisor, because they're providing not only support before you open, but they're going to train your employees for the life of that agreement. They're going to continue to pour into and invest into those franchisees in order to create the successes that they have.
Got you.
But in return, you got to pay for it. And so the weekly royalty is going to be anywhere from 2 to 10%.
Okay. Weekly
of your top line revenue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, is there any way that you can negotiate where it's on a monthly basis, or is industry standard that it's weekly?
Yeah, that's more of an industry standard. And,
okay.
And people do say, well, hey, man, I'm great. I'm the best business like Fred, right? I'm going to negotiate a way to the royalty to. Well, the good franchise companies are not going to negotiate because you think you're greater than the next guy.
Got you.
The franchise fee from 5% to 2%, or you get to pay yours once a year.
Yeah.
Because remember, franchising is regulated by the Federal Trade Commission.
Yes.
Franchise sales is regulated by the Federal Trade Commission and has been, interestingly enough, since 1979. So all of this information we're talking about, a lot of this becomes very legal.
Okay.
And so there's something called, and I'll just throw this out there, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but there's something called a franchise disclosure document.
Okay.
Federal Trade Commission requires every franchisor to update this document every year, and it has to include all of that information, royalties, when is it paid, what percentage is it. All of this is included in a very voluminous legal document.
Yes.
So the good franchise companies understand they can't play with that. They can't violate that.
Got you.
So they can't negotiate something with you that they didn't with someone else. It would be in violation of franchise sales laws.
Okay. Interesting. I never knew that, but that's why we've got you on the show. So with the time that we have remaining, anything that you want the future entrepreneur, the future franchise investor to know?
Man, I just say, I tell everybody, right? If you're thinking about business ownership, that's great.
Yes.
Just do your research.
Got you.
Right? Put in the time, energy, the sweat equity. Maybe franchising is for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the independent business route. Whatever it is, seek out those subject matter experts.
Yes.
And just invest the time and energy in it. And don't expect it to happen overnight, right? Like I just gave you the example of a client I started the process with 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So work with qualified people that understand and have a background. If it's franchising and you're working with a consultant such as myself, even if it's not me, right? Make sure that they have a background, they understand it.
Yes.
Because the big thing is I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't say this, right? I made a lot of mistakes as an early franchisee. I was, 35 years old when I bought my first franchise, right? Made a lot of mistakes in the beginning.
Yes.
So I try to share a lot of those data points with my clients as well so that they know what to avoid.
Yes.
As well as what they're looking forward
to
doing. So, just take your time. It's no hurry. But franchising is available, and you don't need to spend $2 million to get a success.
Got you.
Right?
Yeah.
They're out there.
So how do people get in touch with you if they want more information? Please share that with us.
Yep. Great question. Well, they can just call you, Kevin.
I'm going to charge you a franchise fee for answering your phone calls.
Absolutely. No, they can find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
They're Boynton Weeks, Boynton Weeks, Weekes.
Yes.
I'm probably the only Boynton Weeks in the world, besides my son, who's a junior. And my email is BWEEKES at Frannet, FRANNET.com. bweeks@frannet.com. Or you can go right to our website, www.frannet.com, and click on consultant. It'll bring up a page with my bio and all the information about me, phone number, how to reach me, all that stuff.
Gotcha.
So I'm pretty accessible, and I'm a Jersey guy, right? I live in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, married with 3 kids, so I'm local. So
how many kids?
I actually have 3.
What?
I know.
That's right. That's right. I am your son.
You're my son. Hey, you're in the will. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. Dad, I just want to make sure with all this franchising you doing, I want my share too.
Yeah, you're in there, brother.
Oh man, brother Weeks, nothing but love, man. I can't thank you. So informative, so relaxing, so paceful. In terms of how you were giving out the information. So I'm encouraging our listening audience to get in contact with you and to consider franchising and allow you to take them through the process, man. So thank you.
Absolutely. Listen, I appreciate your time, man. And I appreciate always what you're doing to give back to the community.
Absolutely.
Right? And making sure that the information and the knowledge is out there and available to folks. Yeah. So appreciate your work, man. And my phone number, by the way, is 609-468-6697. So you can also reach me on the mobile.
All right. Brother Weeks, thank you, man. Let's talk and text later on. I appreciate you so much.
My guy, I appreciate you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, man. Thank you, man.
All right.
Peace now.
Bye-bye.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.